Hey there, Tony here from Carnivore Studios. In today's devlog, we'll be going over the design and implementation of our minimap system, as well as the initial framework for the procedural generation system and the things that inspired it. I was sick last week, so I didn't get my video out on Friday, but on the upside, I'll have more goodies to share with you. Since I didn't have a full week to work on things, I focused on creating custom materials and art for the environment and weapons, which I'll go over as well.
I spent this week designing and implementing the minimap HUD, which displays a stylized drop-down map representing the location of walls, doors, guards, and view cones around the player. It will also display a visual ping of sounds when you make them, like a stone dropping in water, so you're aware of how far the noises you make are traveling. This map will further be used to view the entire level when hacking terminals, by disabling the code that makes the map follow the player and letting it move around within the bounds of what you've discovered so far, since the big map will also have a fog of war. I don't have the larger UI or fog of war set up yet, but I'll be doing that when I start hooking up the hacking system visuals and the procedural generation. I'm using a single test module right now, but that doesn't dynamically add the parts I need for the map, so it'll be easier to set up and test the fog of war when I have multiple modules being put together by a more sophisticated procedural generation system. I have implemented some extra functionality for the HUD that includes being able to increase the size of the minimap for accessibility, or if you just prefer a larger map when you play. You can also zoom the minimap in and out to get the level of detail you desire. The view cones also fade to out transparent, but it isn't a perfect representation of how the units are seeing, so I'll need to revisit this a bit when I finish hooking up the guard's AI to the minimap. This system actually came together pretty quickly since I was able to leverage some built-in functionality of Unreal to capture a different set of objects in the scene using Scene Capture Component 2D. Essentially, objects that will appear in the minimap have two sets of visual objects. The first is the regular visual object that you see in the game through your player camera, and the other is an object that can only be seen by the capture camera. There are a few subtle things I had to configure correctly to make sure the objects only appeared in the correct layer, and I had to create some custom materials to make the depth effect work correctly as well. If you're interested in learning more about the minimap system, put a comment below and I'll try to put together a quick tutorial on it. By setting things up this way, I just needed to add a minimap visual to an object if I wanted that object to appear on the minimap. I'll be setting up all the module parts of a level to have minimap visuals, so the map will be automatically procedurally generated with the level. The minimap system will also know what kind of objects are on the minimap, so I can change what is visible depending on what skills, abilities, or items are currently active. This will give me a lot of customization options and possibilities for weapons, abilities, skills, and items that randomly drop in the level. The procedural generation system is going to take a bit of time to get just right, but I've taken my first steps towards it by creating the initial level manager and procedural generation blueprints. I've been researching different methods for procedural generation, and I think I have a good idea on how I want to implement it for this game. Currently, I'm just randomly attaching modules together, but to make the level interesting and have multiple methods for progression depending on the weapons and gadgets you find, I'll need to put levels together in a very specific way. While researching, I came across quite a few tutorials and papers on procedural generation, but the one that stuck out was making meaningful dungeons with cyclic dungeon generation. I'll have a link in the description below for it. This article was based off some other articles they referenced, and after digging into those, I found a great PDF called Cyclic Dungeon Generation, which describes a method to generate dungeon for tabletop games. I took out all the implementation details so I could just focus on the content, which was great. I still read through all the articles, which I'll reference below, for ideas on how they implement the features, but having a high-level document that goes through it was invaluable, so hats off to the creators. I'm always grateful when other people share their work, which is in part why I like to do these videos, to give back to the community, and to highlight great contributors as I come across them. Unlike the method described, I'll be adding elevation information to my node so that multiple paths can branch out on different elevations, with flags set that represent if you can go up or down an elevation in that node when you have nothing but your basic skills. This will allow me to make a map that is solvable using your base skills, but keeps the possibility of shortcuts if you have the right items. In later levels, I might require these items to traverse up and down elevations, since you'll be guaranteed to have at least one way to solve it by then. The modules I create will take in parameters from the procedural level generation to ensure doorways, ladders, and climbing spots are randomly generated to satisfy this movement up or down. I'll also have different parameters that control how difficult it will be to navigate through areas based off how you need to get to different elevations and the kind of security that will prevent you from easily doing so. I'm looking forward to the point when I can tie all these systems together fully and start running my procedural levels. While I was sick, I took advantage of some of that downtime to learn more about making materials in Unreal and researching texturing tools to find a cost-effective way to texture my environment. I'm pretty good in Blender at hard surface modeling, so making the environment in 3D isn't an issue for me, but texturing is something I'm not familiar with at all, so I need to find a good free tool to help make things easier for me. I'm aware of Substance Painter and its high cost that was well outside my budget, so I looked around for a free alternative. One of the first results when I searched for a free texturing tool was Quixel Mixer, which is free if you have a content license with Unreal and easily integrated with Unreal's pipeline, so it was a no-brainer for me to choose it. I took some time while I was sick to watch some tutorials, and it looks like it'll be relatively easy to texture my environment with Quixel. Don't get me wrong, it'll still be pretty time-consuming to hone in on just the right look, but once I have it, I'll be able to apply it to all my level assets with slight tweaks for some of the objects to help break things up a bit. In the meantime, I've been showing off some of my concept pictures here that caught my eye. The levels won't look exactly like this necessarily, but they show the direction I want to go. One of the things I was able to complete this week was the base materials for weapons. I want the weapons to have a holographic energy look that will contrast nicely with the characters and darker environments I have planned. It will also feel a bit better when the weapons disappear and reappear when you're changing equipment or if you're shifting to parkour movement. I think they're looking pretty good. I'm just using some store-bought assets for testing, but I'll be creating my own custom weapons and we'll be able to showcase those very soon. I also received some screenshots of the guard models that are being worked on, and I'm really liking these results. I'm just waiting on a few helmet variations and an alternate texture set before I integrate them into the game, so be sure to keep an eye out for those updates as they'll be coming out very soon.
That's it for today. Be sure to like and subscribe or use the link below to join our mailing list. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.